Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test. Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4. Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and start and get everybody seated. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, everyone. If everyone could be seated, the guest speakers and our special guests are at the front two tables over here. Everyone else can sit anywhere else. Okay. Thank you. We will open up with our National Guard. Actually, they're going to, the ROTC from Highland Springs will open us up with the Color Guard. Please join by giving a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. Let's give Highland Springs ROTC a hand. Thank you all for coming this morning. Now it's time for you guys to go back to school. All right, you can be seated. Well, thank you all for taking the time out to, first of all, give us the opportunity to honor all of you for your service to our country, as well as your service to the Virginia Department of Transportation. Just to let you know, for me, this is a personal thing. Veterans Day has always been something that's been near and dear to my heart because of my family. My father, he's a retired Marine. I am a former spouse. And, you know, once a spouse, always a spouse. I know more about his benefits than he does. And, and he still calls me to ask me questions. And then my oldest son just transitioned out of the Marine Corps. And I can tell you that that lifestyle has really been something that has built character for us. It's given us a sense to operate in excellence, because there's people's lives that are at stake, whether you're out in theater with them or whether you're back home in the remain behind. So thank you all for your service. This is not a show. This is something that I truly understand, that there's sacrifices that each of you have made, your families have made, and even your children have made when you signed up on the dotted line to say you're going to serve the country. Because the reality is our freedoms are not free. There's always someone that's taking, that's sacrificing for us to be able to live our everyday lives as we do, sometimes carelessly, and not thinking about what's happening in the back end. So without further ado, I'm going to call Miss Yvette Baker. She is a veteran. Her picture did come up on the screen. You'll see it later. But she's going to go ahead and introduce the rest of the line for today. Thank you.
Good morning. This is definitely a beautiful sight to see so many veterans here. Yes, I served in the United States Navy for 4 years. And during my time, I thought that it would just always be peace. If anybody's familiar with Desert Storm, I served in Desert Storm. And I just never imagined the things that you can go through when you're serving overseas and you're serving during wartime. So I commend everybody that's in here that has served, whether you served during peacetime or whether you served during wartime, because it was an experience that I'm honored to say I was a part of and that I would never forget. I would like to call up, first of all, his name is Doug Monday. He is also a veteran. He will be giving a history for us of Veterans Day. Doug?
Thank you, Yvette. It's an honor for me to be here, stand here, and give a brief history of Veterans Day to what I consider here to be an elite and special group. Originally known as Armistice Day, Veterans Day celebrates the end of World War I, paying tribute to all American veterans, both living and deceased, who served their country honorably both times of peace and war. However, Veterans Day was not officially passed by Congress as an annual observance until 1926 and became a national holiday in 1938 and was officially renamed Veterans Day in 1954 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. World War I, known as the time of the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919, in the Palace of Versailles outside the town of Versailles in Versailles, France. However, fighting ceased 7 months earlier when an armistice, which is a temporary cessation of hostilities between the Allied nations and Germany, went into effect on the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month. For that reason, November 11, 1918, is generally regarded as the end of the war to end all wars. In November 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day. The original concept of the celebration was for a day observed with parades and public meetings and a brief suspension of business beginning at 11 a.m. The United States Congress officially recognized the end of World War I when it passed a concurrent resolution on June 4, 1926 with these words. The United States Congress officially recognized, whereas the 11th of November 1918 marked the cessation of the most destructive, sanguinary, and far-reaching war in human animals, and the resumption by the people of the United States in peaceful relations with other nations, which we hope may never again be severed. Whereas it is fitting that a recurring anniversary of this day should be commemorated with Thanksgiving, prayer, and exercises designed to perpetuate peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between nations. And whereas the legislatures of 27 of our states have already declared November 11th to be a legal holiday, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate, the House of Representatives concurring, that the President of the United States is requested to issue a proclamation calling upon the officials to display the flag of the United States on all government buildings on November 11th, and inviting the people of the United States to observe the day in schools, churches, other suitable places with appropriate ceremonies of friendly relations with all peoples. An act approved May 13th, 1938, made the 11th of November each year a legal holiday, and a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace, and to be thereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day. Armistice Day was primarily a day set aside to honor veterans of World War I, but in 1954, after World War II had required the greatest mobilization of sailors, Marines, airmen in the nation's history, and after forces had fought aggression in Korea, the 83rd Congress, at the urging of the veteran service organizations, amended the Act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserting in its place the word veterans. With the approval of this legislation on June 1, 1954, November 11th became a day to honor American veterans of all wars. Veterans Day is a celebration of America's veterans for their patriotism, love of country, willingness to serve, and sacrifice for the common good. I now ask that all please stand for a moment of reflection.
You can be seated.
Thank you, Doug. Now we will have Ross Koenig come forward and tell us about Virginia Values Veterans. Ralph. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Come on, we can do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. Well, first of all, I want to thank Ms. Cheryl Collins for having us here today. I really appreciate that. How many people in the audience know about Virginia Values Veterans? Okay, so there's some. So what I'm going to do is I'll give you guys a brief overview of the program, how it started, where we're at today, and also our partnership specifically with VDOT. So it happened back in June of 2012. As we all remember, the unemployment rate was very, very high, but specifically in the veteran demographic. And at that time, billions of dollars are going for dress for success, resume writing, interviewing skills, but still produce that largest demographic in the unemployment space. So obviously our agency thought, let's think about it a little bit differently. It's better to train employers than it is to continue to spend more dollars and go out and train 1,000 veterans to go look for work. So we put a mark on the wall about having 50 employers in the program within the first fiscal year. We actually doubled that number. So we actually proved it and got it codified into law, and it's been in law, and we have a line item budget moving forward since June of 2013. So as we're moving forward, just some brief statistics for you is since June of 2012, we've had over 28,000 veterans employed in the Commonwealth with almost 1,000 employers in our organization. So year over year, we continue to grow in the space, but one thing I really want to highlight is obviously the Virginia Department of Transportation, because specifically them, when we're in that pilot year trying to get things off the ground, they stepped up. You know, as one of the largest agencies in the Commonwealth, they joined the program back when it was just something in its infancy. So they've been a part of the program since 2013 and officially became certified in June of 2014. So since that's been going on, as of last year in 2016, they've had 56 veterans officially reported to us, and we're going to continue to grow that number. We're working with Cheryl. We have some initiatives going on in 2018 to kind of get more staff at VDOT and obviously trained up, because we are a training and education program. So those are some fantastic numbers, and like I said, we couldn't do it without agencies like yourself and also private sector companies that have in the Commonwealth, and we really appreciate it, and thank you for everybody's service who are veterans here today. So I know we have a very packed agenda, but it gives me the great honor to introduce one of my bosses, the Director of Virginia Veterans Education, Transition, and Employment, Mr. Annie Walker.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. On behalf of Secretary Carlos Hopkins, who is the Secretary of Veterans and Defense Affairs for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and Commissioner John Newby, the Commissioner of the Department of Veteran Services, we would like to extend our gratitude to Cheryl Collins and the family at VDOT for your recognition of our veterans. So thank you so much. I'm Annie Walker, and I'm the Director of Veterans Education, Transition, and Employment. And it is exactly how it sounds. It's a lot. But I want to explain a little bit about first the Department of Veteran Services and then VEET, as we are commonly known for the Veterans Education, Transition, and Employment. And in the big scheme of things, the Department of Veteran Services is a baby agency compared to VDOT. We're only about 13 years old, and we're a result of Governor Warner, now Senator Warner, realizing that veterans, military personnel was just totally confused when one day you're on active duty and the next day someone's handing you some paperwork saying, okay, see ya. And so then where do I go? What do I do? And we realized that veterans were really confused. And they were confused about not being properly transitioned. They were confused with the sea of goodwill. You know, there were a lot of agencies, a lot of people saying, yeah, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you. We come to find out a lot of them were fraudulent. So you were overwhelmed. So Governor Warner at the time said, we're going to do this no wrong door concept. There should be one state agency that veterans, military, their families should be able to come to, and we don't provide all direct services, but what we do provide is direction. We provide a resource for you. So the Virginia Department of Veteran Services, and you don't have to remember all of this because we have our outreach person in the back, Ms. Joyce Baldwin, that will be here all day, and she's with our benefits, and that's very important because that's that first step to a successful transition is, am I receiving the benefits that I've worked hard for? So Joyce will be able to answer those questions for you today, so you don't have to remember everything I said. But just to give you a little background on the Virginia Department of Veteran Services, we have 6 service lines. Those service lines consist of, obviously, VEET, Veterans Education, Transition, and Employment, and I'll talk a little bit about my directorate in a bit. We have cemeteries. A lot of people don't know that you have benefits at the cemeteries. In fact, we have 2 state-supported cemeteries in Virginia with plans for 2 more. We have the care centers. We have 2 care centers, one in Roanoke, one in Richmond, and we just broke ground this past 2 weeks on one in Northern Virginia and one in Virginia Beach. So a lot of people don't even know that you have benefits for long-term care when that time is needed. We definitely have our benefits section, and the benefits, like I said, probably is the most important from the beginning of your transition, because successfully transitioning means that you have your resources. You know, you have the benefits, you have the care, you have the money to successfully transition. So benefits, you must see benefits. We have VVFS, and VVFS is Virginia Veterans Family and Support Services, and that's for any type of behavioral type of support you need. They also, if everybody heard Governor McAuliffe talk about that we had virtually stamped out homelessness in Virginia, that falls under VVFS. And it's not that there is no homelessness in Virginia, it just means that we have a process in place to quickly identify a homeless person and rapidly house them. So we have more housing than we have homelessness in Virginia. Now, you know, they may choose not to go, and you may still see some homeless people on the corners, but that means that there is somewhere for that person to go if they choose to. So that's what virtual homelessness, stamping that out, means. So those are our 6 service lines. So my service line, Veterans Education, Transition, and Employment, we have obviously the V3 program that actually train employers like VDOT on how to recruit, how to train, and how to retain veterans. We have the State Approving Agency for Veterans Education, Training, and Employment, and everybody will know the GI Bill. So we have actually a state agency that all training and educational facilities in the state of Virginia must be approved by this agency so that you can attend and receive your GI Bill benefits. We also have VTAP, which is the Virginia Transition Assistance Program, and the Virginia Transition Assistance Program does exactly what it says. We now have said after a service member decides to separate from the military, there should be a warm handoff. Virginia is saying, we are the warm handoff. Come to us. Let us kind of help you maneuver through all of the sea of goodwill. They will assist with everything from, again, providing you with the resources for whatever you may have going on at the time, but resume writing. They also will connect you with a V3 employer. So transition, we realize, is not just I'm in the military one day and then I'm out. Transition really is a lifetime journey. And a lot of people don't realize that, and I think that's where we get into people not being successful in transition because they don't realize that transition is a process. It's something lifetime. You know, I just don't spend, whether you spent 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 40 years in the military, you just can't get out and say, okay, now I'm who I used to be. So you need assistance with realizing that I've changed, and in whatever way I've changed, my needs have changed. So that's the purpose of our Transition Assistance Program. We also have the VMISDEP program, which is a little-known state educational program, and that's the Virginia Military Survivors Independence Education Program. And it is the waiver of tuition and fees for dependents of any veteran that have at least 90% disabled, you're 90% disabled as a result of war. Now, the disability has to be combat related, and that's where we always get into some complaints. Every year in the General Assembly, we will have a bill that goes through to take away that disability criteria because, you know, we've heard complaints from veterans that say, what makes my disability if it occurred during a training exercise any different than if it occurred at war? So that has been the debate in the General Assembly for the last year, but for now, it's 90% as a result of injuries incurred while in combat, basically. We also have an initiative, which is the Skill Bridge. And Skill Bridge is that we will try to bridge the gap between the high demand industry jobs and the training that's needed for those type of jobs. So that's the Skill Bridge program. We also have the Training and Education Alliance now, which we are trying to connect companies like VDOT And you tell us what your needs are, what skills do you need, and then we actually connect you with community colleges. Community colleges are the most that we work with, and say, okay, Community College A, are you willing to provide this training that VDOT says that we need? So that's our Training and Education Alliance. And the last thing, which I am so proud of, is we have a Women Veterans Summit. And we have a Women Veterans Summit, and it's scheduled for June the 14th and the 15th of this year, which VDOT has always been a supporter of, and we hope you continue to support us. And we are actually going to hire a women veteran coordinator, which for the time being is me. But we are very serious about actually developing a true women veteran program in the state of Virginia. So that's the Virginia Department of Veteran Services. I just wanted to make you aware of it because we are such a young agency. And again, as a state agency, you know, we don't have the marketing budget that private industry has. So this is our outreach, is we try to tell everybody, and we shout it from the hilltops, to tell you that we are here, we want to serve you, we are willing to serve you, you will not be turned away, and if we can't help you because we don't provide all of the direct services, but we have hundreds of partners that we can refer you to. So again, please visit Joyce in the back during the course of the day, and thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for being just a super partner.
Thank you so much. Next, we will have Lars Harrisville. He's going to tell us a little bit about VDOT's Veteran Internship Program. Lars.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, veterans here, VDOT, veterans everywhere. Thank you for your service to this country, to defend it, and to give so much and take on that burden for us. Thank you. I did want to say I'm not actually a veteran myself, but I was a high school teacher in my previous career, and when 9/11 happened, I was there with my class, and all those young men and women were watching the towers come down in shock. And after that day, a fairly good number of those kids made a decision to enlist, that they were going to serve their country in the aftermath of that tragedy. So I know how much commitment there is out there in the armed services to do the right thing and defend every one of us. Thank you. It's been my privilege to coordinate the VDOT Veterans Internship Program. It was started 11 years ago on the initiative of the Federal Highway Administration, the administrator at the time, who was a retired lieutenant general. And VDOT took that suggestion, ran with it, and 11 years later, 111 veterans have come through this program, and the vast majority have found rewarding careers. Their transition has been very successful. So I'm honored to continue in that capacity, working with this program. The criterion for entry into the internship is to have a disability rating from the VA. We partner with state agencies, especially Department of Veteran Services, with the McGuire VA Hospital. I try to bring in resources, assistance for these veterans looking to learn at VDOT and bump up their skill set. And because VDOT has so many veterans, these interns have benefited from the support from the VDOT veterans around them, They know that understanding is there. The key thing is to come from a culture where it's not about me to the civilian culture where, well, there are a lot of people who think it's all about them. So VDOT is about everyone. So it's not hard to sell VDOT to a veteran because VDOT is here to serve the entire state and everyone who passes through it. Today we have 8 veterans in the program. Many of them are here. Thank you. I've learned a lot from these veterans and have the deepest respect for the burdens that they've borne for all of us. Some MOSs are tremendously stressful, and when veterans ask me, well, what do I appreciate about them? I say, well, there's no, the truth is really what I respect, and thank you for bringing it to me consistently. And we know VDOT is always going to be more and more successful because we base everything on the facts. How does it work? How does it work now? How can we improve it? How can we move forward? And I want to thank my division administrator, Senator Norman, for continuing to support this program and move it forward. And I want to especially thank the Federal Highway Administration for continuing to fund this. We have, I've got a great member of our program, Nicholas Wenberg, who's volunteered to share some of his experience in the Marine Corps with everyone. It's just one sample of the veterans in this post 9/11 world that we live in, and some of the incredible assignments that these men and women have been sent to complete. So I am in continuing awe. I continue to learn from these veterans, and my respect grows more every day. So thank you, and Mr. Wenberg, thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you all help me in the back? Thank you. Turn that off. Oh, that's why I got to talk into this? Oh, bummer. Good morning. How are you guys today? Doing good, doing good. My name is Staff Sergeant Nicholas Martin Wenberg, United States Marine Corps, retired. That's right. Before I start, I would like to say thank you to Lieutenant General Faulkner for coming, and welcome. Sorry, if I get a little emotional, I'm sorry. It just happens every once in a while. I know you probably heard a lot today, but I do appreciate it. From one double dog to another, thank you, sir. I also find it funny, sir, that you started your career with 1-6 hard, and I ended my career with 1-6 hard. We talked about it in the parking lot, and I'm very grateful, sir. I would also like to say thank you to the VDOT leadership and personnel for setting this day up. I would also like to say thank you to all my brothers and sisters that are veterans for serving. It is an honor to be called a veteran with all the veterans here at VDOT and around America. We are, Jesus Christ, Nick. We are the 3% that keeps this great country safe. All right, a little bit about me, so let me get away from the emotional stuff. I was born in Aurora, Colorado. I went to boot camp in 1998 in the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. I had a little joke. I am not a Hollywood Marine. Hollywood is about an hour and a half north, so I mean, we could keep that to the down low, please. Yeah, good, we got some laughter. From February to 2007, oh, whoops, I forgot this, my wife would kill me. I got married to my gorgeous wife in 2005. From February 2007 to May of 2013, we had 3 beautiful girls. Sorry. Their names are Emily, Brenna, and Addison. They are my world, as you could tell. I retired September 2015 using the temporary early retirement authority. Let me slow this down a little bit. The Colonel of the Marine Corps at the time was General Amos, and he put together the program called Terra in order for history not to repeat itself. He didn't want Marines to be let go like it happened during the Vietnam era. He wanted to ensure that Marines that spent more than 15 years in the Marine Corps were taken care of, and that was due to the size or the downsize of the Marine Corps. Excuse me. In order to use the Terra, you needed to be a staff sergeant. You have to be in the Marine Corps for 15 years. I was in for 16. And you need to have a pass for promotion. I did not have one of those yet. After being a staff sergeant for 7 years, I finally got in the promotion zone for gunny. Thank you. For some reason. Talking about my girls always gets me crying. For promotion to gunnery sergeant, I was on a ship off the coast of Yemen, thinking about how my life has impacted my family and most importantly, my daughters. Typically, promotion board lasts for 2 months. I called my wife, I told her about the Terra program while I was on the ship, and I told her 1 or 2 things are going to happen. Either I pick up gunny or I'm retiring. I didn't get enough votes, so I put in my retirement paperwork, and after 2 months in Headquarters Marine Corps, here I am today. I've been to over a dozen countries during my life inside the Marine Corps, and they were either for training or for liberty. I am just going to highlight a few things that I've done in my career in the 17 years. If I go through everything, I think we'd be up for a while, and Miss Cheryl would get mad at me. My first unit I was in was 1st Battalion, 1st Marines in Camp Pendleton, California. While I was with 1-1 and on my second deployment, we did 4 days of training and 1 day at Liberty in Darwin, Australia. I was on Liberty at an establishment when September 11, 2001 happened. It felt like I was in the movies when they came over the intercom and told all the Marines and sailors to go back to their ships. I say ships because the Navy doesn't like us calling them boats. On the way to Afghanistan, we did a humanitarian mission in East Timor. This is important because this is the first time that I saw single families living in tents that are made up of blankets. It looked like multiple families living in an area in the size of 12 feet by 12 feet. They were living there because the country they were at war with burnt down schools, homes, and buildings while they were leaving the country because the war was over. I don't want to get into too much history. My second unit was School of Infantry as an instructor. I trained basic riflemen, assaultmen, and then my last year and a half, I was at the weapon instructor group. At the weapon instructor group, I taught the shoulder launch multi-assault weapon, a 3mm rocket, demo, both explosive and kinetic breaching, the Javelin missile, and armor ID. My first year there, I must have made an impression because my friends, Sergeant Sean Miles, asked what I was doing after the Marine Corps ball. He told me that his sister was coming down in town during this time and that we could go out for drinks. I told him that I have an extra ticket for the ball and I would take her if she wants. Well, I took her to the ball, and a year and a half later, she became my wife. Unfortunately, Sergeant Sean Miles was taken from us in Al-Qarma, Iraq in 2006, 6 months before I made my first deployment in Iraq with 2-8. Not to help my family out, but I was blocks away from where he was taken from us. I do think when I was at the School of Infantry, training newly formed Marines straight out of boot camp is where I figured out my leadership styles. I say that because you can definitely try different things during the 2 months of training those Marines, and you can see what works best. I tried the straight authoritative leadership, but they were miserable, and you really didn't get the best quality of work. Then I tried persuasive leadership, but you really didn't get respect, and they took their time getting things done because they thought you were buddies. So I figured out a little mixture of both works. You just need to know when to bring out the authoritative leadership. My third unit I was in was 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I did two trips with them. My first deployment with 2-8, I was part of the battalion commander's personal security detachment team. My job was to follow the battalion commander around when he was outside his vehicle and to ensure that he was safe. That was kind of hard because he roamed. It was a lot of fun. He's a good guy, though. I don't want to say his name, but I like the guy. I still keep in touch with him. On one of the mounted vehicle patrols is when I was hit with an IED. My driver and I were both okay, but my up-armored high back had holes in the frame. It was a bad day. The second deployment in 2-8 is where I did a lot of planning and mentoring for both Iraqi police and the Marines, mission, logistics, pay for the IPs, the welfare, and to ensure that every IP is showing up to their posts throughout the city I was in. Leading 275 Ps was like herding cats. It's hard, but it can be done with a lot of patience and a lot of work. I had to learn patience, and I also found out what they liked, and I used that for bargaining chips to get things done. I also had a plan for the rearrange of concrete barriers and security because we were downsizing from 4 buildings down to 1. My unit was going to be the last unit there embedded with the IPs, so I had a plan to get all the equipment and to ensure that they were sufficient enough to sustain operation until the Marine unit that relieved us came around on their rounds. My 4th unit I was in was Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center up in the Sierra Mountains. My billet there was the Future Operations Staff NCOIC. I assisted in the planning for the battalion units and SOF units that came up to train up there. I also put together the IAD course for the motorized training units that came up to train. Excuse me, I was also the liaison officer for those units that wanted to train at Hawthorne Ammo Depot. I think most of you Army guys might know where that's at. Yeah, that's a good place. Which is an Army installation. I was also in the writing process for the range standard operations procedures, the SOP for Hawthorne Ammo Depot. I spent most of my time with Hawthorne coordinating the training, putting logistical requests, range requests, ensuring the ammo request was submitted from the training units to Hawthorne. I think the most rewarding time in my career is when I spent a year in Liberia, Africa, mentoring the senior enlisted personnel in the battalion. I mentored the Sergeant Major of 1st Battalion, 23rd Infantry Brigade down there in Liberia. It was very rewarding. I loved it. I learned their culture, which really wasn't that hard, because a lot of it was our culture. If you know anything about Liberia, they took a lot of our culture down there. A little information for you. Monrovia is the only capital that is that is named after a dead U.S. president that is located outside the United States. Monrovia is named after President James Monroe. 1-6 is my 5th and last unit I was in. My billet inside there, inside 1-6 was an 81 millimeter section leader, a combined anti-armored team, CAT, which consists of 50s, marks, tows, 240s, javelins. 1-6 is the only deployable unit I was in for 3 years and only did 1 deployment. This was my 3rd and last time to Iraq. I spent 2 months at the Baghdad Embassy compound, defending the compound and the State Department personnel. I did go to Germany to assist in the evaluating of the Georgian Army, and I was ensuring that the Georgian Army and the Marines embedded with them were safe while they conducted their final training exercise before they headed to Afghanistan. All right, after the Marine Corps career, I was going, what do I do now? I did 17 years in the Marine Corps. I was leading Marines for 15 years, and now I'm in charge of myself again, and sometimes my daughters. Sometimes they're in charge of me. I retired because of the time I was deploying away from my family. So that really knocked out contracting jobs like Dynacorp, Triple Canopy, and any other organizations like that. I don't want to become a cop because I already had a sense of accomplishment from spending 17 years in the infantry. So I thought, maybe welding. I was intrigued by how a process can melt metal and bring them together. I did a little welding at my father-in-law's shop, and I liked it. I researched welding schools, and I found one close to my parents' house in Colorado. Saw firsthand the difference between the Marine Corps and the civilian schooling. Military school teach you how to stay alive, and the civilian schools is teaching you how to live and to make money. I really don't have a lot of time to discuss everything about the school, but I stayed at the school because of the instructors. They knew what they were teaching, and they made you return back to your booth until you got it right. They didn't just take anything. You had to have it done and it had to look good before they even accept it to grade it, which was awesome. You also learned a lot about the industry by sitting there talking with all the different instructors. They had a lot of knowledge. And I always told all the younger guys to go talk to them. You got to get that knowledge from them so you know where you're going, and they didn't. When I was working at the retail store while I was in school, I was always told that they don't need the Marine Nick to come out, and I always told them the Marine Nick is it. There isn't another Nick in here. I was a seasonal employee at the store, and I was kept on after Christmas was finished. I was given more responsibilities while I was working there, and I was told to stay until I was done working, which was always around 10 o'clock. After the store opened, I went into the back, and I dealt with the back stocking and reorganizing the bulk wall. I had to quit because I was moving back to Virginia. The first job out, and I had to learn about civilian leadership. To say the least, it was interesting. I received a call from a temp agency while I was driving back to Virginia, and which I thought was a welding establishment. The way they worded the job postings, or me not reading the job posting entirely, which landed me in a seat at the place saying that I think you would be a good fit for the job. He also told me that my resume wasn't strong enough because I don't have a lot of welding experience. So I interviewed for the welding job, which was tack welding rebar together so they could put it in a form and cover it with concrete. After I figured out what I needed to do, which didn't really take long, I started to roam around and help out the area I was making the form for by pouring and smoothing out concrete after they pour the concrete in the cast. I also volunteered to be the plant safety representative. After a month, they made me the chairman of safety for the company. This is after I had said I would take it after they actually hired me from the temp agency. But when they made me the chairman of safety, I was still working for the temp agency. I then did what I was trained to do, and that is to start fixing problems that I saw. As a Marine, I was trained to be a leader and honestly address problems that came my way that affected my Marines. The manufacturing plant operated differently, and the transition was a challenge. It was during this time that I began to talk with the VDOT VDOT Veteran Internship Representative. The representative and I were trying to figure out a good fit for me. He finally asked about the time at the concrete manufacturing company and decided that the materials division working for the structure section would be a good fit because of my welding schooling and the time working at the concrete manufacturing plant. I'm learning more about what type of planning and care and quality that goes into building a bridge inside the state of Virginia. I'm learning about non-destructive testing for welding and learning about another way to make concrete products. I'm going through American Society testing materials and find out different characteristics about metal and concrete. I do like how VDOT is operating and hope that I could locate a job within VDOT before my internship is up. Thank you and have an amazing day. God bless Semper Fi.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to break out and do something fun really quick. Jamie Opolak, which all of you probably met him as you walked in, he's going to play a little game, so to say, before I introduce our guest speaker today. So, Jamie O.
Thank you, thank you. So what I like to do is go around the room because I don't know everyone. If you notice, we got pictures all the way around. I think we have over 600 and some veterans in VDOT out of over 7,700 employees. So some of y'all owe me pictures, all right? Even those who didn't want to send them, sent them in, and they were a little embarrassed. You'll see them rolling on afterwards. So if we could go around the room, and if you are a veteran, could you tell us how long you were in, what branch you were in? And if you're not a veteran, you're a spouse of a veteran. As an Army Ranger, I've left my 3 children and wife in the garage many a day. So you have your part too. So if we could go around the room, we'll start with you, sir.
Scott Howard, I was in the Air Force for 6 years, and I was an aircraft system specialist on C-5As.
John Shaw was with the United States Army 1991 to 1994, stationed in Okinawa, Japan as a communication specialist.
My name is Bill Danzeisen. I am a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel with 23 years of service, retired in 1999, Halloween actually of 1999. I was an artillery officer, aviator, and logistician.
I am John Johnson. I was a U.S. Army Staff Sergeant. I was in about 15 years. I was public affairs. I was a fielder, and I was on avionics. I worked on helicopter radios.
Mr. Bill didn't hear tell you, as a Ranger, we need air support, and he flew AH-1 attack helicopters, Cobras.
My name is Ivan Cruz. Currently still serving, captain in the Army National Guard. I'm a UH-60 Black Hawk pilot.
Then we got another field artillery guy coming up here next.
Justin Martz. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years in the infantry.
Good morning. Byron Marshall. I was a artillery officer, retired as lieutenant colonel in 2012, and we talked quite a bit about stuff. Anyway, artillery, logistics, and transportation, and been at VDOT almost 29 years.
Good morning, I'm Matt Geyer. I'm a captain in the Virginia Army National Guard, field artillery officer, still currently in, HHB commander for the 1st 111th Field Artillery Battalion.
Good morning, my name is Audrey Michael, and I served 8 years in the Army.
Good morning, my name's Steve Weber, served 6 years in the Marine Corps, a combination of infantry and Marine security guard program.
What Matt here won't tell you, he used to work for me a time ago, and he is actually going through his first command this weekend. Do not drop the guide on, all right?
Hi, my name is Joyce Baldwin, work with DVS. I was in the Army for 6 years, and I worked as human resource specialist.
Good morning, I'm David Snyder, Captain, Marine Corps, active duty 72 to 75, JAG and a military judge. And let me say to all the Marines in here, if you're interested in joining the Marine Corps League, which is a nonprofit of Marine veterans, see me after the meeting and I'll give you some information.
I'm Matt Lott. I'm with Safety Security Emergency Management Division. I was with the Army, 4 years active, a little over a dozen years reserve now. I serve as a drill sergeant.
Good morning. Tony Sanchez, retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant, retired in 2013. I've been with VDOT for 20 plus years, so it's kind of a transition between the military and VDOT, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And this is my better half, my wife Sharon.
He's gonna make me cry, sorry. My name is Sharon Sanchez, 4 years in the Air Force, and thanks for the Air Force is how we met.
Good morning. My name is Carolyn Wisdom, and I'm the spouse of an Air Force veteran, 20 plus years.
Good morning, John Schuler. I'm in my 20th year, Navy Reserve, Civil Engineer Corps, Seabees, Lieutenant Commander. I've been at VDOT for 13 years or so. Jamie, didn't you used to be in the community college system? Community college system? Yeah, okay.
Yes. I've been here all of 3 months, I think, somewhere there or about.
How you doing? J.R. Noble, 24 years Air Force. I was on the C-5 Loadmaster.
Good morning, Chris Burks. I spent 6 years in the United States Navy on board the USNS Quishue.
JR thinks that he and I met jumping out of a C-5 Galaxy, which is pretty awesome. You don't get to jump out of a C-5 pretty often. And somehow we think we might have met. We might be kindred spirits some kind of way.
I am Scott Crafton with Maintenance Division. I was a Navy CB during Vietnam, served 4 years. I was an E5 engineering aide, second class.
Hello, my name is Veronica Vaughn, and I'm in TMPD. I served in the U.S. Army, a U.S. Army Reserve Specialist 4. I have 4 brothers, all served military, and my father.
Good morning. I'm Todd Hallisey, in Local Assistance Division. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, and I was supply, stock control, and security.
Kurt Cooper, I'm also in Local Assistance Division. I served total 9 years in the Army, 3 active, and 3 in the National Guard. 6 in the National Guard, and Signal Corps, and also engineering. And my son is currently in the Coast Guard. He's been in about 7, and he's getting ready to go to a tour out to the Baltic Sea. He's stationed out of Hawaii, so he'll be spending the next 2 months in Alaska.
I'm Matt Swanson, Location and Design Division. I'm currently a captain in the Virginia Army National Guard. I've almost got 14 years in Corps of Engineers, and I've done 2 tours in Iraq.
Hello, everyone. I am Michael Ritz, and I work in the equipment section, and I served in the Air Force for 26 years. I retired as a Senior Master Sergeant, and enjoyed my time in, and I miss it dearly.
Retired Sergeant First Class James Nixon. I went 1979 to 2006, started as a mechanic, ended up reserve controller training troops. The post office wouldn't take me, so VDOT did, and it was a blessing. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Doug Snell. I work in Fiscal Division, and I enlisted in 72 in the Air Force during Vietnam. Made staff sergeant, couldn't get promoted after that, so I became an officer, and then I served in Systems Command with the Space Shuttle program, and retired with 26 years.
1972, that was a very good year. What was I doing? Let's not talk about that. All right.
Yes, my name is Doug Mundy. I'm with TMPD. I served as a finance specialist with the old guard. That's the escort when President Reagan was president. So.
Tracy Sloan, I'm Director of Workforce Development, been here a whopping 4 months, but also of interest, I am the proud daughter of a U.S. Air Force colonel. He was Wild Weasel, number 922, so if anybody has any Wild Weasel stories, catch me on a break. He also served some time with the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon and taught flight school at Air War College in Columbus, Mississippi.
David Reed, U.S. Army, 1973, 1976, Pershing Missile Battery.
Bill Hatch, U.S. Army, 3 years, infantry.
My name is Steve Meyerhofer, work with VDOT IT. I was in the U.S. Marine Corps 4 years, 83 to 87, embarkations.
Bob Lanham, I was in the U.S. Navy from 78 to 84 on the guided missile destroyer out of Pearl Harbor.
Hi, I'm John Nam. ITD, I retired in 96, rank of major, and in the Transportation Corps, so interesting I'm here at VDOT.
Hi, I'm Joe Boucher. I'm with IT. I was active duty Army 82 through 88. I was my MOS was 82 Delta, which is Topographic Geodetic Surveyor. That MOS doesn't exist anymore. And I have a son that's stationed right now at Fort Campbell. He's done several tours. He's with the 5th Group, Special Forces, 2nd Battalion. And yeah, that's it. Oh, National Guard 13 years, and so we retired.
Steve Owens, I spent 4 years in the Navy JAG in Okinawa and Pearl Harbor.
I'm Ed Darby. I was in the Army Corps of Engineers for 12 years as an officer, never deployed overseas.
Oh, I got here just in time, huh? I'm Doug McElroy from Construction Division. I'm still in the Marine Corps Reserves for 12 years now, and I've deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Karen Parker, Communications Division, 24 years Army.
Cheryl James, former civil service with Commander Naval Security Group Command Headquarters, Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. Spouse of a 22-year retired veteran Army, mother, veteran Army, sister, cousin, sister-in-law, amen, Army.
Hi, I'm Yvette Baker, currently Central Office Human Resources Manager, United States Navy, 87 to 92. Left the Army as a petty officer. Left the Navy as petty officer, 2nd class.
All right, did we miss anyone? Oh, that's right. That's right. We got 2 back here. Come on out.
Come on. We'll show face, I guess. Cade Cooper, ITD, 4 years in the Marine Corps Infantry.
Stephen Davis, United States Army, Signal. You can talk about us, but you can't talk without us. 20 years service. Thank you.
All right, and again, my name is Jamie O'Pollock. Similar to Nick, 17 years, 1 month, 19 days, fully retired. Army Ranger, logistics, and heavy junk. Some of the deployments, of course, Desert Storm, part of the largest airdrop since D-Day to jump in Panama to apprehend Noriega. As I say, Army Rangers, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, don't want to do it again. So with that said, I say Rangers lead the way, and I respond saying always. Ms. Cheryl.
Okay, thank you. So it's good to see all of the service that everyone has given to our country here in VDOT. Interesting enough, one of the reasons that I had the Virginia Department of Veteran Services come is because I hear that a lot of times our veterans who are employed right here with VDOT aren't aware of their benefits and how to start their claims. As you see, we have a mixture of some reservists, some National Guard, and some retirees, and some that may have served maybe 1 or 2 terms. I will tell you this story. My father, when he retired, of course, they just give him his packet, he's out the door. Really no transition at that time, not the 5 days that they have now, which is mandatory at least 12 to 18 months before they get out. And so he really didn't know what to do. Probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I asked him, I said, "Are you receiving any disability?" And he said, "No." So he retired from the Marine Corps, and then he retired from NOAA too, the National Oceanic that agency, right? So he retired from there, and he wasn't receiving any disability. Well, he played basketball for the Marine Corps basketball team. He broke his ankle several times and his arm several times, but by me understanding the benefits and how it worked, over a year's time, he did receive some disability for those injuries because they did affect him now that he's 60 plus years old. I won't say his age now. But that's just a story to tell that a lot of times our veterans are out here and they really don't know how to access their benefits. So definitely, if you have any questions, all of the contact information is in the back to access that, along with your VDOT benefits, because we want to make sure that our veterans are taken care of. Just to let everyone know that this event is also being streamlined to all the districts. So one of the things I was telling everyone to do was pull their mics up to their mouth so that they can hear you clearly. I just want to say to the districts, Happy Veterans Day, and your caps and pins are on the way, and we are honored to recognize all of the veterans across VDOT. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce the guest speaker, and I hope I don't get choked up. His name is Lieutenant General William Mark Faulkner. I will not read his bio upon his request. You can read that in there. He's done a lot of things and have led the Marines. And I can say, number one, being under his leadership, there's a such thing as a person having rank and a person being a leader. There's a big difference. And you all know by being in the military, you know those leaders that really kind of supported you and was there for you. I can say that this man and his wife were really there for me, for the units that I worked for the commands. At that time, my husband was under his leadership as well as a captain at that time. He's now up to major now. So yeah, but I'll tell a story. I'll tell a story instead of reading the bio. When I first came to 9th Engineer Support Battalion, I was hired. I had my interview, and they called me 2 days later and gave me the offer. That was Colonel Reagan at the time. And he called me on a Friday, gave me the offer. I said, sir, when do you want me there? He said, on Monday. I said, okay, I'll be there on Monday. Well, when I get there on Monday, nobody's there but a second lieutenant to meet me. And I said, where is everybody? And he said, they're gone to Mojave Viper. Well, I was a spouse and a daughter, but I didn't know where Mojave Viper was. Well, I got into a command as a family readiness officer of over 1,200 Marines and sailors who were preparing for deployment in Iraq. And I had to really be connected with the general's office for support. One of the things he did say to me when I did get promoted to readiness and deployment for all 41 commands in Okinawa, and you may not remember this, sir, but you gave me this coin, my first coin. And anybody who's in the military, you know how important a coin is. You gave me this coin, and you didn't do a lot of hoopla. The unit they did their whole thing, grandstand for me out in the field, and that was nice, and they made me cry. But what you did is that you came to the command when everybody was gone, and you took me into the room, and you talked to me, and you said one thing to me that I've kept since then. You stated to me, because we had some issues during the deployment, where you have key wives that sometimes want to take stuff and rosters and get into the command, and you were very strict. Cheryl, stay on protocol. And I did. And you told me when you handed me this coin, you said, Cheryl, if you get your hands popped for doing the right things, you'll be all right. And I've taken that with me everywhere I've gone. And so I do get my hands popped, don't I? My team will say that in the back. I still get my hands popped sometimes, but I do take that with me. I thank you for accepting the invite to come. That just shows your humility, and I'm going to stop before I start crying. Remember this?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, how are you? Good to see you.
Here you go, sir.
Thanks, Cheryl. Well, good morning. Good morning. Is that loud enough, Cheryl? Yeah, good. Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly a privilege for me to be here this morning in Richmond and with veterans. I'll tell you, I was blown away by the number of veterans that are here today, and certainly to recognize veterans in Veterans Day with the Virginia Department of Transportation. Let me start by thanking Cheryl for those comments. As Cheryl talked about, we go back to 2009, 2010 in Okinawa. I was a brand new one-star general, and Cheryl was an easy hire. And she just did a tremendous job taking care of Marines and sailors and their family members, and really not only taking care of their day-to-day challenges with their loved one deployed, but really setting them up for success. And I would offer to you that that's exactly what she's doing here at VDOT today. And you know, I haven't had a chance to really meet a lot of VDOT leadership. I've met a couple, but VDOT is fortunate to have Cheryl Collins on your team. And I'll tell you right now, I run an organization in Quantico, so for the record, VDOT, and I know I'm on tape, you better take care of her because I'm going to hire her away. Every one of you is a special guest this morning, and certainly well represented in terms of veterans. I'd like to start by really recognizing and thanking the leadership of VDOT. As part of my preparation for this morning, Cheryl sent me a bunch of materials, and I had an opportunity to go through the website and learn more about VDOT and learn more about what VDOT does for veterans. And this morning, you know, the update on the V3 program, the internship program, what you're doing, what VDOT's doing for wounded warriors, and certainly testimonials like Nick's speaks volumes for VDOT and VDOT's leadership. Can you do better? Absolutely. And I'll talk about that here in a minute. But really, out front, congratulations to VDOT and VDOT leadership. I come from a family of military veterans like a lot of you here. My dad was a Marine, 30 years in the Marine Corps. Father-in-law, 31 years in the Marine Corps. Between them, 1,000 combat missions in Vietnam. Brother-in-law flew Harriers. Just a lot of Marines in my family. And, of course, I was around for 33, 34 years. But this morning, even though I am a Marine and a proud Marine, I'm really here on behalf of the 21 million veterans that are spread throughout our nation and representing them. Just like we've heard here today, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, guardsmen, all comprise that 21 million. These individuals, just like most of you here, you took an oath. You took an oath of office to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And you bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And what really motivates me and really what makes me feel good is you did that on your own volition. Nobody had a gun at your back. There may be, for some of you, there may be some things that you were trying to get away from in your hometown or your high school. That's your own personal issue. But I would offer to you for most of you, you did it because you wanted to be bigger than just yourself. You wanted to be part of a larger organization and a team, and you exactly did that. Just some statistics here for you, and some of you work this day to day, so this is not news to you. Virginia has almost 750,000 veterans in the state. So when you look at that nationally, that ranks right at number 8 in terms of states with veterans. It's really no surprise in terms of the size of that population. And so as you look, and this is based on what the Veterans Affairs is saying, as you look over the next 10, 15, 20 years, the number of veterans in our nation is going to go down. But the number of veterans in Virginia is going to go up, going in a different direction. Additionally, Virginia ranks 4th in the United States in terms of veterans as a percentage of the overall population. Pretty large, pretty significant. To a lot of you here, well, that's really no surprise with Naval Base Norfolk not far down the road, Fort Belvoir, Fort Eustis, Quantico Marine Base where I work, the Pentagon, obviously a big concentration of military and military veterans. So what does that mean? What does that mean to VDOT? Well, I would offer to you it's pretty clear. It means it's even going to be more important in the future that programs that we heard about this morning are not only in place, but they flourish. And they hire more veterans. Hire more veterans not because it's the right thing to do, but to make the VDOT workforce stronger. As we heard about this morning, veterans bring so much to the workforce. We could go down the list of leadership traits and what they bring. Those traits are represented in here this morning, I would offer to you. But let me just give you a couple of them in particular that come to my mind. Integrity. Veterans are men and women of character, of truth, do the right thing, honest, trustworthy. Veterans bring respect. They respect each other, they respect authority, they respect the laws. And they respect each other irrespective of gender, religious persuasions, sexual persuasions. It doesn't matter. That's how they've grown up in the military. That's what veterans bring. And veterans recognize teamwork. They know that it's not about I. There's no I in team. To be a successful veteran of any of our services, you need to recognize and be part of that team. That's the way we succeed. Again, I would offer to you that's the way VDOT succeeds. Veterans know what accountability is. It's not just accountable for yourself in your own actions, but it's accountable for your team. We have leaders in here today. They understand accountability. Is accountability important in combat situations or even training situations that are potentially dangerous? Absolutely. Veterans know what accountability means. And then finally, veterans know how to plan, and they're decisive. They know how to make decisions. They have to make decisions every day, especially if they're forward deployed in combat. Veterans know how to plan and make decisions. Do these attributes sound familiar? Do they resonate with you? Well, they should, is because every one of them is part of VDOT's values. And so what I just told you is what makes up all our services. But if you go out there, and a lot of you know this, if you look at your value statement for VDOT, every one of those 5 or 6 attributes or values is represented. So veterans bring to the table exactly what VDOT's all about. VDOT's mission to plan, deliver, and operate and maintain our Virginia transportation system is made better by veterans. Let me tell you a quick story here. It's in the bio, and Cheryl referenced it, but I've been retired for about 2 years now, and I was very fortunate to because I had too much gas left in the tank, right? You can't believe it's so much golf and do so many honeydews. But I took a job, and I'm running the Marine Corps Association and Foundation now. So we're the professional association of the Marine Corps. And we publish some journals, but we also give a lot of money back to Marines, and we develop Marine Corps leaders. Well, one of the many benefits of that job is I get to travel around, and I get to meet Marines, and I get to meet a lot of veterans. So about 3 weeks ago, I was at a Marine Corps League event in Kansas. It was the National Convention in Overland Park, Kansas, and I met this Marine by the name of Jerry Ingram. Jerry's 90 years old. Jerry still works 5 days a week, 8 hours a day selling fire and emergency equipment. This guy is sharp as a tack. I saw him. We were walking into the auditorium for the convention, and Jerry had this walker. He was smiling. He had his Marine League hat on, and I was helping him. He's moving pretty slow, obviously, 90 years old after what he's been through. And I said, "Sir, can I help you?" And he said, "No, I got it, get off me." And I said, "I got it. He's a Marine, all right, so he doesn't want any help." And so I said, "Nobody helping you here?" I said, where are your buddies? Where are your friends? And he said, "They're all dead." And I kind of jumped back, and he smiled. And he said, "They've all went to higher ground." He said, "I'm the only one left." So I got to talking to Jerry, And not only was he impressive because of his work ethic, but I said, when did you join the Marine Corps? He said, well, I joined in 1942, and I was 15 years old. I said, I was blown away. How the heck can you get in the Marine Corps when you're 15 years old? And he says, well, I lied, and I've been lying ever since. So I tell you that, and but Jerry is the exception. So when you go back and you heard me say integrity earlier, maybe Jerry's off to the side, but I think you understand my point. But I'll tell you, this guy is impressive. Tinian Saipan Iwo Jima as a 16, 17-year-old Marine as a tank commander, and he learned so much there, work ethic, all those other values that I talked about earlier. And he's still giving back today. And you know who's benefiting from it? And I talked to several of the others, is a lot of his workmates, because they're taking his experience, and he's an inspiration to others. Really an impressive individual. So let me wrap up and talk a little bit about the future. And, I'm overstepping here right up front because, I know about as much of VDOT as driving on the roads and what I gleaned from the website. But I've been around long enough to know I can get some sense of things just by being with you for the last a couple hours. But I would offer to you that the future is pretty bright for VDOT as it pertains to veterans. And that's not only a commentary on the programs that are in place, but the passion that I'm kind of feeling here from the veterans and some of you others. But I would tell you, I think what's most important is the leadership. And so the leadership, the passion that has to come from all of you. All of you here have been here at different levels of years, obviously with VDOT. But it's really the veterans here that are going to take it to the next level for VDOT. I'll leave you with this. Marines in here know this, but November 10th is pretty special to Marines, right? So this year, November 10th marks the 242nd Marine Corps birthday. And Marines take their birthdays pretty seriously, right? It's a big deal to us. Others look at us and they say, I don't get it. Well, you know what? You don't get it because it's a tradition. It's part of who we are as Marines. Other services have their traditions. We have ours. But those traditions are now part of our culture, right? And that culture is what makes us different than everyone else. Everyone's got it. So that's what VDOT needs. VDOT needs that same kind of veterans culture. That's the only way to build on it. So I would offer to you, I won't be back. Cheryl will probably won't invite me back next year. If she does, it'll be sitting back there, which will be fine. But what's this auditorium going to look like next year? And what are your numbers going to look like? Is it going to be 660 against a total workforce of 7,300, 7,400? Somewhere around 9%, which really is kind of about the percentage of veterans in Virginia. Or is there some kind of stretch goal where you're going to try to grow that? I don't know. But those are measures of success. And I think that's what VDOT is on the path to doing that, really, is to continuing to grow that, recognizing our veterans and how much they mean to not only VDOT, but they mean to this great country of ours. Again, thank you all for your time this morning. Happy Veterans Day to you. In here today, you're either a veteran or a friend of a veteran. And God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Okay, please sit down. Come over here. So Cheryl, she got all choked up by that point, right? That was pretty enjoyable to watch, wasn't it? But, see, I got to double up here now. So this is my current point, right? That's all you saw. Is a 3-star. So she said, I just got a 1-star. That's a 3-star. That's a 3-star point, but congratulations. All right.
So yeah, we're gonna have to invite you back now since I have a 3-star. Okay. All righty, cool, awesome. Yeah, so thank you, sir, for those words. And yes, it's right in line with where we're going with the military and veteran program, a lot of education. And it's not just one person. Even through the planning of this event, the veterans rose to the occasion. And I want to acknowledge those who helped support. If you could, please stand if you were a part of the planning committee for this event. Please stand. Thank you. Let's give them a hand, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. And the reason I want to acknowledge the veteran support is because, you know, I'm not a veteran, although I do understand the lifestyle, but the program is yours. It's not just one person. The program is yours. I expect your wisdom. I expect you to share how we reach out to the other veterans, because the best recruiters for veterans are who? Exactly. So one of the things that we are looking to do is that we're going to create, sort of say, district military liaisons, and I'll be working with the HR teams on this, because they're going to be our extension to reaching. We have bases all over the state of Virginia. There is no reason that we shouldn't have a strong presence at all of the installations. I'm only one person. I can't be everywhere, so I definitely need the support. We have Fort Lee that's right here. Quantico's right up the street. Up in Northern Virginia, there's Fort Belvoir and Henderson Hall. The Air Force Base is right across the bridge. There's Norfolk. There's also a Marine Corps element down in Norfolk. There's Army down there and Air Force. So there is no reason that we cannot create some goals to increase our veteran population. And once we bring them in, you guys will be the mentors. Because you see how you found out you had so much in common right here? Well, when those veterans are transitioning into the workforce, they need your support. Veterans like Nick, they need your support to let them know that they're not alone. We've gone through the same thing. Sometimes you just need to hear that from someone to feel a part of the family, of the VDOT family. So thank you, sir, for that. Okay, so to conclude, since the ROTC had to go back to school, we're going, yes, they have to be educated. So what we're going to do is that we're going to play the national anthem. So I would ask everyone to stand. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so What we'll be doing now, you can have a seat, you can have a seat. What we'll be doing now, we're a little ahead of the game, and so we're waiting for lunch, so I'm gonna give you an opportunity to kind of mingle, but just to let all of our VDOT veterans know, we do have the VDOT hats in the back, and also the pins, and also for the districts, they're being shipped out to you. Some of the districts did pick them up on yesterday, but we shipped them out to you. If you do need any additional, just contact my office and we'll send them to you. Let me see, I don't want to miss any other thank yous. I want to also acknowledge my team, they're in the back. Pam, yes, she's in the back. She helped out a lot with getting the hats and the pins. Adrian, over to the other side. Thank you, Adrian, for helping with the setup. Jessica, she's out doing registration. So yes, definitely, I can't do anything by myself. I thank my team for their support. Whoop, whoop. And then also we had some HR support as well from the main HR central office. So they probably had to go back and handle some issues, but they did assist us this morning as well. So thank them. Ms. Carey is going to have the meals are the lunch, we are gonna serve lunch, so you can stick around. It should be here in a few minutes. They'll be setting up. But in the meantime, you guys can just socialize, mingle, check out your pictures. We will have a presentation that will be on Inside VDOT. There were a lot of photos that were sent in, more than we could print out. So that will be a rolling, ongoing thing, because as we get new veterans coming in, we want their pictures to be posted so that way everyone can see who's coming in and what districts they're assigned to, because we want to get to know our veteran population. I think that's it. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your service. Hello, testing.
I got a little setup back there for good time.
Okay. Okay, let me tell them one thing. Turn it down for a minute. Video release. Video release. Please, as you leave out, there's a video release form to sign so we can release the video. Please sign the video release form.
There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there